Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton and special guest Jesse Oquendo. My name is Ryan T. Husk, and we are celebrating Aron Eisenberg. How you guys doing today?
Doing great, doing great.
Doing good.
And where are you calling in from, Jesse?
I'm in Atlanta today.
That's right. You used to be in Oklahoma, right?
Correct. Yep. Yeah,
How do you
it's been actually a year now that I've moved to Atlanta for this job. So it's been pretty good. I can't complain.
You like
Oh,
it
wow.
better?
Yeah. No, haven't seen a tornado, so that's been nice. No hail has beat my car up, so it's all pluses here on this side.
Wow. Yeah, I also hear that the cost of living is decent in Atlanta. Is that true, or?
It's not bad. It's
Not bad.
I was in Oklahoma City, and Atlanta it's pretty comparable. It may be a little bit higher, but not by much. So it's been it hasn't been much of a change. Like the big changes, of course, the Midwest to the East Coast, and then Atlanta's kind of its own metro craziness. So not a lot of cowboy hats in Atlanta, like we had in Oklahoma City. But there's more diversity in Atlanta, so it all works out really well for me. I really do like it here, and actually at the end of this month I'm moving from my temporary apartment to my permanent house. So after a year I get to have a house with a backyard again, so I'm pretty excited.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Are you around for Dragon Con?
I was around for Dragon Con. I did not go to Dragon Con because so I live about 10 or 12 miles from downtown. And if I would have gone to Dragon Con, whether it been my car or the train or a bus, it would have taken 4 hours with all the traffic.
Jeez.
So next time I just have to plan better. I have to be there for it and not try to drive there. So lesson learned for me. But yeah, it was being on so I'm actually in an Atlanta suburb called Marietta. And so Dragon Con is, takes up like 8 city blocks, all these hotels.
Wow.
But like, I did not know how big it actually was until like, even in my little suburb, I couldn't like get to the store without it taking an hour. So it was quite interesting.
Wow. It affected that far out.
Oh yeah. It was phenomenal. So, and then you could see parts of Dragon Con even way out here, because they all dress up before they get there. So it was fun to be a tourist of that. But I think next year I'm going to go stay at one of the hotels and then enjoy it like the real way. And that's what
Be in the epicenter.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like the San Diego Comic-Con down here. It's just like Southern California just shuts down for a week.
Yeah, I was warned. So my boss said, you might, the Friday, she said, you might want to work from home Friday because it might be hard getting into work. And I'm like, had no idea what she was talking about. And then like, when I saw the traffic, I went, oh, I'm staying home. So that's pretty much the way it worked for me.
They treat it like the apocalypse. And speaking of conventions, you were on our show 4 months ago for our Star Trek Las Vegas series. So before we move forward, I kind of wanted to ask you, how was your last convention? This was before the convention, leading up to it. How did you enjoy Vegas?
I always enjoy Vegas, and I always enjoy the people. So every year that I go to less panels and spend more time hanging out with people and at the Masquerade and the I Bar, and a few of us kind of take excursions outside of the convention. But the convention for me is kind of my yearly therapy, right? Because I don't know many people here. I was working remotely from Oklahoma, so I didn't have many people there. So the convention, like, there's just a family of like 10 of us that have come together from the UK, from Scotland, from Canada, from the US, and we just get together and it's like our little family. So I had a great time again. It was like I didn't get as many new things, but like just being able to go in the middle of Star Trek, doing all this new stuff, that was exciting enough for me, and I was just happy to be there.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
Sirach, did you enjoy Vegas?
I did. It's always going to stand out for me now as the memory that the last time, good times with Aron, feels like now it's going to be enshrined in that Vegas trip. So yeah, did you get a chance to see Aron when you were down there?
Oh yeah. So I I saw, that's what always amazed me about Aron. Like I met him, my first convention, I met him, and I just went up to him, and guys, before I started going to conventions, I was really shy my first year. I promise. If you look back, I was shy. But I went up to him because I had seen him in the elevator, and I'm like, why does this guy look familiar? And then someone pointed him out. I said, okay, well, I want to say hi, right? So I said hi to him, and I said, hey, I don't want to bug you. I just, I like all the stuff you did, and I want to say hi. And he just made an effort to make me feel so much more comfortable. He says, come say hi anytime, blah, 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 blah. And I had followed him on Facebook a bit. So when I told him my name, he said, oh, you're Jesse from Facebook. And I'm like, well, that just blew me away, right? I was like, how do you know me from Facebook? So every year that I've gone to Vegas, I've made kind of a point to try to find him and Melissa. And then he's done some of the Gays in Space events that I've been going to. And so it's like I'm visiting with a friend. And at first I was like, well, no, they're just all like that, that Chirac's crazy, they just all do that. Yeah, but it actually isn't that. It was like Aron was actually cared about the people he talked to. And I always felt really honored that he would just stop whatever he's doing when he saw me just to say hi. And this year I saw him, and it was right after we did we had just done the episode, and he made an effort to stop. He and Melissa, a bunch of us were waiting to go into the All-American Grill, and then he just stopped, took pictures with us and chatted with us. And, my friends are like, well, how do you know him? And I said, well, I just did that podcast thing. And they're like, well, he remembers you? I'm like, yeah. So it was just really neat. And Aron was one of those people who just lived what he preached. Yeah, he was never too high and mighty for anyone. I mean, I love that about him. And so,
Was that a tall joke?
I'm sorry?
Was that a tall joke?
No, but there is a picture of Ryan and me with him on his knees pretending to be Aron, which I'll forever cherish now. Yeah,
wait,
you did.
When you were was it when you were wearing the Seventh Rule shirt?
Yes.
Oh no, I wasn't being Aron. I was just trying to align up with the picture of my face. That's
well, that's not what I told all my friends. So
whatever makes the better story, I'm okay with.
I like his story.
But yeah, it was. This last convention was the last time I got to talk to him too. So it was. The news was hard for me. It really was, and it's taken a while. And I lost my mom 2 years ago, so I don't like that type of loss. I really don't. And so when I saw he was in the hospital, I'm like, well, no, this will be fine, because we just saw him, and then it just caught everybody that I knew by surprise. But I'll tell you guys, the work you guys are doing to just remember him this year has really meant a lot to all of us, even if we stay quiet about it. I think a lot of us, especially fans, right, kind of, you feel like around my friends here, when Aron passed away, I took a day off work because I just couldn't come into work. And I think people who look at us as from the outside in as fans go, how could that happen? And I probably was one of those people too, until this happened. And I was like, oh, I mean, you really do grow close to people, and people like Aron just shared themselves openly all the time. And and I knew him, and I knew Melissa, and I knew the stories, and I caught up, and I just think that I was not the only person kind of feeling that. And we still see that today. So you guys, thank you so much for your continuing to do this and remembering him as much as you are, because he deserves it. And I appreciate you guys for doing that.
That's so
Thank
cool,
you.
man.
Thank you, Jesse. Yeah.
We've
Also, thank you. Special thanks to Ryan too, who really went out and did above and beyond, and did the whole Captain Nog Forever line, which the proceeds were raised and given out to Melissa to help her on her way forward. So
yeah,
shout out to Ryan for really coming through and stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, he really is.
And
I appreciate you.
I'm going to pass that along and say shout out to JJ Lendl, who designed it for us. When I requested him, he did it very quickly and efficiently, and happily he offered to help. And even more so, by the way, Melissa does have the money now. Everything is done and clean and clear. And so the biggest shout out goes to every single person that separated themselves from their hard-earned cash to not only support the show with whatever they're wearing or holding, but also to support Aron's wife, a widow, Melissa. And you know, really all we could do is put it out there. It's up to people if they want to put their money into it. And so it was really amazing. I was hoping that we could make about 1,000, and we more than doubled that. So it was a huge success, and thank you everybody for what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was talking to my friends. We have a WhatsApp group we're in all year long when we're not at the convention, and a couple of friends of mine do a podcast. I do a podcast, and you know, it seems
What's
to be
your
what
podcast?
we do now. It's a Tricorder Transmissions Network, and I do Shore Leave, and it's the Star Trek convention community podcast. And what we do is we absolutely have no schedule. Absolutely, we just get on go on when someone goes to convention. My partner
Sirach is listening right now. He's
I
like
like this idea. What format is this?
Yeah, and Marina Kravchuk, I think she's been with you guys before. She's my partner in the podcast. And what we do is we kind of talk about what the conventions are. So we just did a Destination Star Trek wrap up with a friend, Sean Mooney, who's from Liverpool.
We love Sean.
Before
Sean's
that, we did New York Comic Con, and you know, as the big ones come along, we kind of talk about them and then do kind of a comparison, and then when Vegas comes around, we do our big Vegas show. So it's not. I don't even know how many people listen. I hate editing, so I never hear my own voice. I don't hear it after it's done. So, but I hear people hear it, and I have a friend who does another podcast who kind of helps me with editing, and so it's been fun. We don't do video because I don't feel I get scared being on video, but
well, you're nailing it, right?
But yes, so and then my friends do in the group do a podcast called Subspace Transmissions, and theirs is kind of the wildest, craziest, zaniest things that Star Trek has to offer is kind of their tagline, and they're film critics, and so think about looking at Star Trek from a film critic perspective. It's a lot more to laughing than it is criticizing, I would say. So those guys are pretty awesome too. But yeah, and I this has kind of brought me out of my shell. Not that I need to get out of my shell, but being on a podcast, having people recognize that you do that work, I really didn't know how much it was. We just celebrated a year of the podcast. So
congratulations!
Thank you. Shout out to you guys who've done this forever. Because it really is, even without a schedule, you kind of have to like stay organized and get yourself together. And
yeah, our podcast is almost 10 months old. We're just a little baby still.
yeah.
We're happy that you're going to continue.
Months.
Yeah. I'm happy you're going to continue to do it. I think it honors Aron as well. You know, just keep going on, because this has been fun. Like I honestly, I listen to podcasts in the car, but yours is the only one that I'll sit at home and watch. Because I don't know, you guys are always fun. I like to laugh, so you know, I can't take things too seriously. So
we do a lot of laughing here, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now you said Shore Leave. What was the Shore Leave that you mentioned?
That's the name. That's the name of the podcast. It's Shore Leave, and it's the Star Trek Convention Community Podcast, and we're on the Tricorder Transmissions Network.
Oh wow!
Now tell us very quickly, if you would. I want to know a little bit more how you felt about Nog as a character.
Sure.
Did you kind of fall in love with Nog as a character, and then you found out that Aron's also a cool guy, or did you kind of think Nog was just another one of the guys, and then when you found out how cool Aron was, it made you appreciate Nog more? Or what's the story there?
Well, when I started watching, I was one of those that came late to DS9. Like I saw it when it came on air, and I was like, oh, it's not for me. It's a little too dark. And then, and I was younger, right? So I was like, I don't know, maybe right out of high school or right going into college, you know? And so Nog, he was one of those characters that I was just like, I don't understand what this kid's doing. You know, that's pretty much what I said. then you fast forward a few years where I started watching DS9 because I wanted to get through every single episode. And then I realized how like awesome and how relevant it was and how much I missed when I was younger. And it wasn't just Nog, it was that Nog-Jake relationship that I enjoyed a lot. It was that friendship, that camaraderie, that we're stuck here together, let's just make the best out of it kind of thing. And when I started watching DS9, and I've always kind of been a loner, like I'm really boisterous and I'm really loud, but really at the end of the day, I go home alone and I don't hang out very much. And those two kind of echoed kind of my life in terms of like, well, there's nobody here and it's all these crazy people and crazy races, you know. And I grew up in New Jersey, so I said that a lot, you know. And the fact that they Nog, not only that he was able to, I enjoyed his whole character, the way it just grew, right? Especially like that epic where he did was it the Valiant, when he was all those kids on the ship kind of thing, you know. And I just thought
Red Squad,
yeah. And so like his just journey was just amazing, because he went from this, like, he was probably gonna turn out to just be another Ferengi, another crazy Ferengi, and then he meets these people and realizes there's more to that. Well, I mean, you have to pair that up with where I came from. I grew up in housing projects in New Jersey. So I grew up really poor, and I grew up around a lot of violence, around a lot of theft, drugs. And you growing up in that environment, you either fell into it or you ran away from it. And I was falling into it. And I think Star Trek overall gave me the ability to say, I am not going to get stuck here. If these guys can get away from what they're doing, I can get away from what I'm doing. And so, like, I worked really hard. I got a scholarship out of there. I got out of New Jersey when I was 17 years old, got out of the projects. And like, now I'm here, you know, and I've, you know, I think we all look at our lives and we go, you know, we're not really anywhere, but like, I look back and I go, I could be like, and I'm Puerto Rican, so like, I always said, well, I'm either going to end up stealing hubcaps or, you know, owning a restaurant. I don't know which one. And and so, like, sorry to the Puerto Ricans, I could say it because I am one, but to be able to get out of that, and I have a great career. I have a great life. I have great friends. I go to Star Trek Las Vegas every year. I go to the cruise every year. There's people I grew up with who've never been able to get out of what they're into. But I think DS9 especially just gave me the ability to say, you know, Bajor is kind of where I grew up, with all the violence and all the craziness, all the politics and people trying to take over. And I correlate that to me getting out, right? So I got out. I went to college. I just kept moving forward, and I didn't let it pull me back. And that's where I am now. And I really do, as silly as it sounds, I really thank Star Trek for that kind of stuff, because between DS9 and that situation, and between Voyager and them stuck out there and having to make a family out of whoever's there, those two shows kind of drove who I am today. And that's just the way it is.
No, I think that's a great thing. You hear about that in inner city neighborhoods, like when I was growing up. I'd hear about athletics keeping people out of trouble. So, you know, guys, he's an athlete. He's a basketball player, a football player, and so the community rallies behind that guy and says, "We don't want him getting caught up in these drugs and gangs. So, you know, we want him to make it out of here because he's our star player." And so they kind of protect and shield that person.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing you say is that, you know, your affinity for Star Trek kind of provided that same kind of bubble of protection, where it's like, oh well, it provides a platform and a different kind of mentality that allows you to be a little bit, protected from those kinds of things, right?
Yeah, well, I was a fat kid growing up, so I didn't have a lot of friends. But where I could have been out, like hanging out with people, I was home watching Star Trek. I was that kid, and I will tell you, until I was 40 years old, no one ever even knew I was a Star Trek fan. Like, I was turning 40. I bought myself for my birthday present a gold ticket to Star Trek Las Vegas. And that started out that whole journey of, I don't really need to be embarrassed to be this geek, because here's like 5,000 other people who are in the same boat I'm in. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
and it may have taken me longer, but Star Trek has a definite correlation to where I am today, and I owe a lot to Star Trek. And I used to feel silly for that, but now I just claim it and own it as my own. So
Totally.
there it is.
Totally. We own our geekdom. So we only have about a minute or two left. Before we go, do you have any parting words about Aron, whether it's, a specific memory other than the elevator pitch that you had, or something about Aron that you really think that the public should know, or something that stood out about him?
Yeah, I think if you don't know, Aron was as genuine as he presented himself to be. And Aron cared about every single person that he talked to. I believe he even cared about all the people who he was Facebook challenged with, because he was very open about his posts.
Mm-hmm.
Aron could have a disagreement and not be rude. And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about following him on Facebook is, and I just loved it, is he could shut someone down without being mean or rude. He just was genuine, and sometimes just being genuine is all you need to shut the right person down. And with grace, with dignity and respect. And Aron did have a lot of respect and a lot of love for all his fans, and I think all his fans became all his friends and family. And I will forever, ever thank him for that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we love the guy. Yeah, we miss him. We love him. And he was so impactful in so many different ways. But you made a good point. His friends became his family.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I just can't say enough. So anyway, thanks guys for letting me kind of talk. I haven't been able to talk to anyone about this really, so this is a little more therapy. So thank you.
Sure. Well, talk to us anytime. I'll give you Sirach's number at the end of this.
Yeah.
And
well,
he's like, find me on Facebook.
Can I spell it?
It's therapy for all of us. We're all kind of doing this so we can get over the tragedy of the loss.
Yeah.
We want to celebrate him. We want to make sure that he's honored properly for the contributions that he's made while he was here, and the lives that he touched.
Yep.
He touched my life. He touched, I'm sure, both of you guys' lives.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah. We do this honorably. We do this with measured steps to make sure that we cross all the T's and dot all the I's for the guy that did so much for so many other people.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thank you so much, Jesse. And you're also a great person to see at the Star Trek convention. For those of you going to Star Trek Las Vegas, if you see Jesse, say hello and give him a hug and tell him how much you loved Aron too, and it'll be a good time.
And he got a really great laugh and smile, Jesse. Very infectious. Yeah, when you start telling jokes and laughing, it makes me want to laugh. So keep the smile on your face. Keep being a success story, and keep spreading the word about who you are as a person. Because we all have ourselves to give to the world, and you're doing a great job.
All right, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for those of you at home, always remember the 7th rule.